recording.
So watch our mouths.
It's up to you. And I wanted to take a moment to introduce, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Sabine Mooney. I'm a graduate student in my last semester at San Jose State. I'm very excited about that. And today I'm super excited to be joined with Thu Bui, who is a senior undergrad, who is going to be presenting immune boosting cooking. And then our fantastic professor, advisor, RD, chef, Jamie Kubota is going to be doing it, following up with a cooking demonstration. So we'll go ahead and get started and I'll pass it off to Thu. If you have questions along the way, please unmute yourself and ask your questions, or I will also be keeping an eye on the chat box if you prefer that method. So go ahead, take it away, Thu.
Hey, thanks Sabine for the introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm really glad to see each and every one of you right now in this lesson. First, I would like to introduce a little bit more about myself. So my name is Thu. I'm a senior student at San Jose State University, and I'm pursuing a degree in nutrition dietetics. So that say that my goal in the future, I want to be a dietitian who works in healthcare facility, and I would like to help people with different health conditions figure out a good diet plans that are specifically good for their health. So that's what I aim for in the future. I'm very excited today to give you this lesson because I think it's gonna be very beneficial for everyone, especially in this time of the pandemic. So as we all know, this pandemic has many of us realized how important is our immune system is, because we see in all the news COVID-19 will affect our immune system, and if we do have a good one, we'll have a big chance to fight it off. So one of the best and direct way for us to improve our immune system is actually through our diet. So there's nothing extravagant. It's just how the way we eat that will help us build a good immune system. So I would like to quickly show you the lesson outline. We're gonna have roughly 4 parts. I'm gonna talk about general knowledge about the immune system. Next, I'm gonna talk about immune boosting foods. And then I'm gonna show you some immune boosting cooking methods. And then at the very end, I will show you a very latest snack trend, what's called a snack board. So it's gonna be very interesting. For question and answer, I actually will pause a little bit after every part, so you have some time to ask your questions either in the chat box or you can unmute yourself. So let's jump into part 1. So the immune system is like our body first responder. Think about police officer or firefighter. And whenever a foreign object, like something we see like teeny bits of dust or something we cannot see like bacteria or viruses enter our body, and if we have a good immune system, they will try to fight back those foreign invaders. So what are the major organs and glands in our body that play a very important role in our immune system? So they are the bone marrows, the thymus, spleen, tonsil, lymph nodes. So they are all listed in the picture right here. So all of these bullet points, they are very important glands and organs that work closely together to protect our body from any foreign invaders. And one of the very important way to assist those organs to do their function is through our diet. So if we eat good foods, then these organs will have a better chance to do its job. And so I would like to tell you about several types of immunity. So we have the first line of immunity, and they are physical barriers like our skin, urine, tears, mucus. So these are the very first layer of our body that will be the first thing to fight off, like the dust or bacteria. Like let's say our tears, if we have some dust in our eyes, we'll start to tear up. And that means that our body is like washing away the dust. And that is the immune system. And another kind of immunity, we call it non-specific innate immunity. So I know it sounds a little bit specific and scientific for you, but to put it simple, there are white blood cells in our body that will attack the pathogen when they get into our body, and regardless of their kinds, they don't care what kind of pathogen it is, they're just gonna fight it. And the last type of immunity, we call it adaptive immunity. So they are the white blood cells that actually can memorize the pathogen. So let's say COVID, the virus, COVID-19 virus. If we have a good adaptive immunity, our body will remember, oh, hey, this is COVID, and we know how to fight it. And so that's why it's called adaptive, because they have memories. And what other function of our immune system? They will provide protection against pathogen. They will remove worn out and dead cells in our body because we don't want anything dead or expire in our body. And lastly, they will help us identify and destroy abnormal cells. And it means that it includes cancer cells.
Didn't work.
So I would like to talk about inflammatory responses. So when cells in your body are fighting off a bacteria or virus or an infection, there are signs like visual and physical signs that we can tell that our immune system is fighting back. And those signs are redness, swelling, heat, like we have fever, and pain. So whenever you feel these signs, it doesn't mean that your body is going against you and make you suffering. It actually tell you that, hey, your immune system is here and it is working. So now I would like to talk about some signs that show that you have a good immune system. And let's play a little bit of check mark in your mind to see if you have these signs. So the signs that show that you have a good immune system are you have very good sleep quality, so you can sleep through the night. You quickly recover from your sickness. So think about last time you got sick and how long it take you to recover. Is it 3 days or is it 1 week? And if you recover fast, it means you have a good immune system. The next side will be you are less likely to reinfect with the same disease over and over again. You have less digestive tract issues. So what is amazing is that 70% of our immunity plays in our gut. So if we usually have digestive issues like diarrhea, constipation, or gas, it means that we need to work more on our immune system. When your wound heals fast, it's very clearly that it means your immune system are working very well as well. And lastly, you are very energetic. So I hope that you have able to check mark most of this list. and that will show that you have a good immune system. So now that we are done with the first part, do you have any questions about the immune system before I jump into part 2?
I don't like how many I couldn't check.
Well, I promise after this lesson, as we goes on, there will be some tips that will help you check more of this list later on. Okay. So let's move on to part 2 to figure out how we can make our immune system better through our diet. So now that we have talked about how the immune system works, we'll have a better understanding how can we help the immune system work properly by having a good diet. So I would like to introduce you some vitamins that are very important to assist our immune system. First, I have vitamin A. Vitamin A is an infection fighter in its common 2 form. Pre form, which have in animal foods like fish, meat, and dairy. And another form, they call it provitamins, which will come from plant source, such as bright red, orange color fruit and vegetables like carrots or red and orange bell peppers. Next, we have vitamin E. Vitamin E can be a very powerful antioxidant that help your body fight off infection. And the source of vitamin E are almond milk, almonds, peanut butter, sunflower seeds, or oils that are made from sunflower, safflower, and soybean oils. So if you would like in this part, because I list a lot of food and vegetables, if you would like, you can take a little note for the food that you would like to try out. Yeah, that's good.
Got it.
Yeah, I see you have your little note. That's great. Moving on to vitamin C. So a lot of us have heard about taking vitamin C to prevent having a cold or to prevent a cold getting worse. It is true because vitamin C is very important in prevent infection and to shorten the stay. And vitamin C's food source are, of course, citrus fruits, but they also have in spinach, kale, bell peppers, strawberries, and Brussels sprouts.
We like those.
That is great. And next we have vitamin D. So this is known as the sunshine vitamins. So most of us get vitamin D from outdoor activities or just go for a walk. But I know in this kind of time, sometimes it's hard to go to the park or even just to get outside. So no worries. We have some food source that we can get vitamin D from. They are salmon, mackerel, tuna, sardines, and vitamin D also being fortified into milk, orange juice, cereal, which are awesome because they are all tasty. And interesting enough, mushrooms are a good source of vitamin D too. And the last vitamin I want to talk about is folate or folic acid. This vitamin actually help make and repair your DNA, which is very important for your immunity, because if you have an impaired immunity, it means that it will be weakened. So this vitamin help to prevent that to happen. And where we can get folate and folic acid, it's in beans, lentils, avocado, which is my favorite, vegetables, fruits and vegetables, leafy greens, and folate and folic acid also get enriched in pasta, bread and rice. So we technically all kind of consume this kind of vitamin every day. So next, not only vitamins, but we also have some minerals that will help us boost our immune system. So first line, we have iron. Iron is very important because it helps us carry oxygen cells around our body. And this play a big part in our immune system. And a good source of iron from animals or meat, seafood like oyster and sardines, or we have plant source of irons for maybe people who don't eat meat. We have this in beans, broccoli, dark leafy green, or in cereal that are fortified with iron. Next, we have selenium. Selenium is also a mineral that helps prevent infection. And we can get this kind of minerals in seafood, meat, liver, poultry, cottage cheese, and especially in Brazil nuts. So Brazil nuts is especially very high in selenium. And last, we have zinc. Zinc is needed for the production of new immune system cells. So we want to constantly have new immune system cells being produced. And good source of zinc are oyster, crab, baked beans, yogurt, which is yummy, chickpeas, and especially in pumpkin seeds have a very good source of zinc. Okay. So we have talked about vitamins and minerals. Anyone have any questions before I move into part 3?
Not yet.
Yes.
Oh,
do you have
me.
questions?
No.
Oh, okay.
I was just mumbling, no, not yet.
I thought you said, yeah, okay.
I'm sorry.
Raise my hand and just point something out. I don't know if anybody's thinking this, but you know, you might ask, is it best to get this from food or from a supplement, right? Do I need to take a supplement? And it's hard to answer that. Ideally, yes, you are getting this from food. So you're getting the vitamins and the nutrients that you need from the foods that you eat by eating a variety of fresh fruits and vegetables, in particular whole grains and other things that provide you good sources of antioxidants and immune boosting nutrients. And whether or not you need a supplement really depends on your unique situation. But likely if you're thinking about supplements, a good thing to do is to talk with your healthcare providers about it. Maybe do a blood panel and see if you're low or deficient in anything like vitamin D, right? Where it would be beneficial to take a supplement. So the first answer would be ideally we're hoping that you're getting this from food. But if you aren't able to for whatever reason, then do talk to your healthcare provider about which supplements you might need.
Jamie, there was one comment in the chat box from Kat, which is, speaking of which, I have heard that vitamin D from food sources is not as beneficial as vitamin D synthesized from the sunlight. Can you comment, please?
Well, the problem is, not the problem, but an issue is that we make vitamin D in our bodies from sunlight, right? So we have to be exposed to sunlight in order to have that happen. A lot of things are happening right now. We're in the middle of COVID. We're staying home. We're not outside as much as we used to be. People are using a lot of sunblock and covering up, so they may not, their skin may not be accessing sunlight as much as it used to be. So vitamin D is a big concern, but there are sources for vitamin D in our diet, right? So ideally you're getting a little bit of sun so that your body is able to produce some vitamin D, because that's naturally what we were built to do. And if not, then food sources are going to be the next best option. And for some people too, it may mean a supplement. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions? Okay. I think we're pretty much good with the questions here. I actually lost this slide, but I retrieved it. It's also something I want to talk about in the immune boosting cooking, which is seasoning. So, so I think if we know how to season our food, we can actually eliminate a lot of sodium that we add into our food, because I know some people, they have a condition where they cannot add that much sodium into their food. And one of the ways to make your food more flavorful, as well as these seasoning I list right here, actually very tasty to add to your food, and also have a lot of benefit to your immune system. And there are turmeric. Turmeric have healing powers. They have these kind of antibacterials, antivirals, antifungal properties. People usually add turmeric to, especially in Indian cuisine, they add turmeric to their curry to make it like the bright orange color. Ginger, cinnamon, cloves, and black peppers. These are all good seasoning that have somewhat characteristic that help your immune system work better, and it's also very tasty to add to your food. So besides knowing what food to eat to boost your immune system, pay more attention on how you season your food as well, so it can bring extra effect. Okay. I would like to jump into another bullet points of part 3, which is the cooking methods that help you preserve nutrients. So beside knowing what food that benefit the immune system, knowing how to cook them is also important, because sometimes when you cook a food with the wrong method, you will accidentally lose a lot of important nutrients. So the rules of cooking vegetables are, the faster you cook them, the more nutrients are preserved in those vegetables. And also the less medium you cook them in, which is the less water or the less broth you cook your vegetables in, unless you're gonna drink that water or broth. So let's say if you boil your greens and just eat the greens but not the water you boil it in, it means that a lot of nutrients will be lost through the water that you cooked it, and you actually gonna throw out that water. So again, one of the rules to keep nutrients in your vegetables is to cook it with less water, or not at all, like steaming. So talking about steaming, I think this is the best method to cook your fruit and vegetables, because they use no cooking mediums like water or broth. It's just you to steam from the water to cook the vegetables. And in this way, flavor can fully develop and vegetable can retain their color. Next, we have grilling. So this method will add more texture to your food, make it crunchy and more enjoyable. And just put a little bit of oil on your vegetable when you grill it, so the oil can help break down the cell's walls and help it release more antioxidants. Baking and roasting, this is actually what Professor Kubota will demonstrate later in this lesson. This method will need less attention than grilling, so you just put your food on a pan and put it in the oven and put a timer on, and it's very convenient. And baking and roasting your vegetables also a great option to get the rich flavor out of your vegetables, and also add a little bit of texture, crunchiness, and caramelize of your vegetables. Sauteing, this is popular methods that a lot of people in the Asian cuisine would prefer. This method use very high heat, but actually a small amount of oil or fat. This is also good methods to cook your food and vegetables, because especially for vegetable, like I said, one of the rules to cook vegetables to save the nutrients is to cook it in the short temp. So with saute, since the pan is really hot, you just need to cook the vegetable with a little bit of oil in a short temp. In that way, you can save a lot of nutrients. And the last cooking methods is microwaving. So believe it or not, when I hear this, I was like, what is microwave? Many people have been saying microwave is not really good or whatsoever, but actually microwave your vegetables is one of the fastest way to cook your vegetables and preserve nutrients, especially vitamin C. And it's also convenient when you don't have stovetop or steamer available. Okay. Before I move to part 4, anyone have any questions about the cooking methods? You can type in the chat or you can unmute yourself.
There is a comment in the chat, again from Kat, thank you. The question is, are a lot of nutrients lost if you use or freeze your vegetables?
Okay, so for frozen vegetables, please correct me if I'm wrong, but for me personally, I think I would still consume frozen vegetables because it's actually preserve the nutrients in the vegetables. And a lot of frozen vegetables, you just need to blanch the vegetables a little bit before you freeze it. And then when you want to consume it, you can throw it in the microwave or steamer. And in that way, you can still preserve a lot of nutrients.
One very good answer too. I was going to say, frozen vegetables are actually a great option. They're very convenient, and frozen vegetables, they are picked and processed at their peak of ripeness. And usually the processing plants even are right there next to the growing fields. So they're actually very high in nutrients, and they're very, very nutritious. It's a great option and usually a very inexpensive option. So it's always a good idea to have a few bags of frozen veggies in your freezer for those days when you need something quick, or to bump up the veggie quotient in your soup, for example. You can throw in some extra frozen veggies. So yes, highly recommend using frozen veggies.
Yeah, very convenient. I agree. Okay, so I would like to move on to part 4, which is very exciting. So I have learned about this trend roughly at the end of 2020, and they have a lot of names. So today I call it the snack board, but it actually have other names like cheese board, nipple board, or charcuterie board. And this idea of snack board actually originated in France, and the original ingredients on the snack bar are cured meat, many types of cheese, homemade sourdough slide, and a dip. And people usually like to display all of these ingredients on a flat surface like a cutting board or some flat plate, and they tend to enjoy this kind of snack in small family gatherings, or a lot of people, they actually do this on a picnic. So this is a very cool snack idea for you to maybe impress your household or just have some fun with healthy snacks. So let's talk about budget and where to get the ingredients. So for the board that you want to use to display the food on, you can purchase like a professional cheese board at Target, or you can actually just use your cutting board. Just make sure you clean it very well, because you're gonna actually put your snack on and eat directly from there. Or if you don't have, if you're not comfortable with using your cutting board, any plate that are flat would work. So there are no rules. You can actually be very creative with this the snacks. For ingredients, what amazing about the snack board is that you can use any ingredients that are available. There are ingredients that you can even get it from your cupboard. Like if you have some nuts, or you have some apples in your fridge, or banana is worked. There are no rules for what ingredient you want to put it on. The only rules is to get creative. And for the budget, because you can use any ingredients that you have at home, or if you want to buy some ingredients that you really want, like some fresh strawberries at the store, the budget varies. And I actually gonna show you a snack board I made last week, but I spent around $20 on hummus, because it's my favorite dip for my veggie steaks. I got some fruit and cheese from Whole Foods, but the rest of the ingredients, I got it from my cupboard. So very flexible on budget, so no worries here. I do have a tip for the snack board, which is I will later on include some nuts into the snack board. And instead of going to the store and having to buy like 1 pound of almonds or 1 pound of cashew, you actually don't need to do that. You can go to the snack section and find a bag of trail mix. So you all probably know or very love trail mix. They usually include a lot of items in there. Like they might have M&M mixed with almonds and cashew and some raisin. And this is a very budget friendly tips to buy instead of buying bulky items. And here's the fun part, which is, so this is the snack board I made last week. And if you can see closely, you can see I try to mimic the yin and yang side. I have my hummus right here, and then the dark dots would be chocolate dips. Actually, the chocolate dips is like a little sweet pleasure from my fruit. So with this snack board, even though the topic is to incorporate healthy fruit and vegetables, you can actually give you some treat. Maybe put in some favorite chocolate dip. So I really love chocolate. I really love Nutella. I like to eat that with my fruit. So if that encourages you to have more fruit and vegetable, incorporate some sweet treats. So don't go extreme on it because you're gonna get tired.
Too, I'd like to add, Trader Joe's is a great resource for lots of different types of trail mixes. And there's a few in particular that have dried cranberries in there, because we were talking about immune boosting foods. Dried cranberries are a great source of vitamin C. Yeah. So that would be a great add. They also carry, Trader Joe's carries dry roasted unsalted nuts or lightly salted nuts. So again, a nice crunch, but without all the sodium, and a great flavor as well.
Oh yeah, I love unsalted nuts, because I myself try to eliminate my sodium intake. So that is actually pretty good. I also, Jamie yesterday told me that Trader Joe's also have a good selection of cheese.
Yeah.
Is that right? Yeah.
Oh yes.
So if you love cheese, you can go to Trader Joe's. So you have more budget friendly selection of cheese.
And don't forget to tell them about the Whole Foods place.
Oh, so at Whole Food Place, if you go to the to the cheese section where they cut into pieces and then they wrap it. Jamie told me that at some part of that cheese section will be a kind of secret section where they would wrap the little pieces that fall off, the bigger pieces. So if you don't want to buy like a big piece of cheese and not will be able to finish it later, you can try to find the section where they sell like little small crack of cheese with less money. Like maybe some piece can be just $2 if you don't eat a lot of cheese like me.
Yeah.
And I think I would call it smart shopping.
Yeah.
So you don't waste your food, and then it's gonna be budget friendly as well. So I have this slide right here. I just list out the ingredients that I included in my snack board. So the words that I put in bold, like fruit and veggies, dairy, grain, protein, and dips, those are the big bullet point, just to give you the idea that if you can include some fruit in each of the categories in your snack board, it will guarantee a nutritious and yummy snack board that give you vitamins from fruit and veggies, from dairy, from grains, from protein and dips. And you don't need to buy the exact food. The exact fruit I have in my snack board, you can be creative about it. You don't need to make yin and yang. You can make a little smiley face. You can be creative about that as well. So again, this snack board is about incorporating fruit and vegetables in healthy snacks instead of other sweeter snacks that are not as good for your body, and be creative about it. So creative eating and smart eating will help you boost your immune system. All right. So now that we have learned about the immune system, how it works in our body, we learn about vitamins and minerals that will help boosting the immune system. We learn about cooking methods that help us save the nutrients in our food, and also seasoning. And we also learn about how to make a creative and yummy snack board. Anyone have any questions at this point? Any comments about what you have learned? Check the chat box.
See some chats. So I just want to add that as Tia was talking about the snack board, I threw together a snack board. I think you can see it here.
Oh, you did.
Under the Kubota kitchen. And I just took stuff that I had in my pantry, threw it together.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah. So I had an orange, Cara orange, so you can see that it's got that pretty kind of color to it. It's not purely. I love Cara in season. They're so special. Cut up one Cara orange. I cut up an apple. I have a couple of cuties here. I cut up a kiwi, and I used a paring knife just to make little cuts into it and pulled it apart. So some people don't know this, but you can actually eat the peel on a kiwi. It's one of those personal preference things. So you could just eat this like that, or you could take a spoon and eat it out. I had some cheddar container pre-sliced. I was given this by a conference that I went to. They sent me a thing of cheese because Cabot had sponsored it. So that was in my fridge. Lucky for me. I had a box of raisins. I had some peanut butter. I cut up 2 carrots and a part of a cucumber. I had some tomatoes. And there you go. I've got a snack board. I probably would love to have a few crackers or a slice or 2 of bread with this. But this is going going to be our afternoon. This is going to be our afternoon nibble here in the house, which I'm excited about because I'm spending the day watching the news and the inauguration and all the festivities. And the next thing starts at 5:30 apparently. So this went together super fast, but it's a great thing to kind of graze on. Mentioned it. This is a great way to bump up your veggies during the day, is to add them into your snacks. But this can also serve as a meal. If you've got some protein, you've got some carbs through your crackers or your bread, your vegetables and your fruit provide some carbs as well. I've got some good fats in my peanut butter. So this is going to be satisfying enough that I could use this as a light meal even. So makes me super happy when I can do that. And whenever I can throw in extra fruits and vegetables as well. And it's super colorful. I did actually put 2 goldfish crackers that came in a little package as well too.
That's a very big goldfish cracker I ever seen.
I have not seen those before either. I was telling Tu and Sabine that my children are in school and the schools are distributing food, and I've never done that before, but I went through the food distribution line to see what they're giving out, and so that I could show my students, and that was something that came in our box. In fact, almost everything I was able to get through our box. We got carrots, we got cucumbers, we got oranges and apples, raisins, the crackers, the cheese came in my box from the conference. So I really didn't have to purchase anything, or very little, to put this together.
Yeah, I love this snack board idea because sometimes you just spend zero.
Yeah, really
gather whatever you
together
can
out of your pantry.
Yeah.
They even, I didn't put it on here because I ran out of time doing this so fast, but I had opened up a little can of chicken that came in my food distribution box as well.
Oh, wow.
And so that could get turned into a little bowl of chicken salad that would be nice on crackers, or, eaten on its own. So, just a little bit of mayo, light mayo is what I usually keep, a touch of mustard, salt, pepper, done. Or you could even do just a little vinegar and olive oil and make it that way. So that could get dressed up and used on the board as well. So it's fast and easy. The goal is to add as many fruits and vegetables in as you can, make it as colorful as you can, put things on there that you enjoy. Good point too, because you should enjoy it. And then you get to nibble on it all day.
Thanks, Amy.
You're welcome. So I'm moving that out of the way so that I can move on to our other recipe that we were going to demo today, which was our Brazil nut crusted acorn squash. So we're trying to load you up with all kinds of immune boosting foods all in one little dish. So I'm going to demo this today. Anybody out there like squash or?
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome.
Squash are delicious.
I love squash, and I've got a couple different squash here. So this is the acorn squash. I went and got this last night, and these are lovely because number one, they're kind of small, so they're easy to work with. Number two, the reason that acorn squash is so nice is they taste delicious, but they're also, the skin is edible. So you don't have to worry about peeling them. So I'm just going to give it a good rinse. And then we can cut it up and I can show you what we're going to do with it. So the skin is edible, which means I don't have to worry about peeling it. So all I'm going to do then is cut it in half so that I can remove the seeds. And this is the hardest part. Just cutting it in half. Just a sharp knife. And then all I want to do is get rid of those seeds. So I'm going to take those seeds and scoop them out with a spoon. And then I can slice up the squash. So there's other squash that are also similar to this. Delicata squash is another squash. I didn't buy one because I had so much squash here at the house. I didn't want to have too much squash going on. But the delicata squash is also smaller, and it has a nice delicate skin, so you don't have to peel it as well. So that's another good one, good option. And then the one I think most people are most familiar with is the butternut squash, which is lovely, but the skin on the butternut squash is a little bit thicker, so you usually have to peel it. So it takes a little bit more effort, but it can also be used. So that's all I needed to do there. Now, you can save the seeds. There's not a lot of seeds in these little squash. I opened one up earlier and now I'm adding to it with this second squash. So there's not a lot of seeds, but the bigger squash have more seeds. They're kind of like pumpkins. You can roast them if you want to. Very sustainable, right? Use the whole vegetable. It's a little bit of effort, but you know, those seeds have a lot of nutrients in them as well. So I would just pull those off of this, rinse them, and then you roast them in the oven like you would pumpkin seeds. And those can be a nice little snack. So I'm setting those aside. Now I've got my halves, and I'll show you. All I'm going to do is slice these. So I'm going to take that small piece off the bottom, and now I'm going to slice them about 1/2 inch thick. As long as you've got a nice heavy knife, it's not too bad. And I'll just do half of this for the demo. But if I was doing the whole recipe, I'd cut the other half up too. There you go. So now I've got these in like 1/2 inch slices, and I'm going to make the topping for this. So these are ready for the topping, and the topping is a mixture of Brazil nuts, because Brazil nuts are really high in selenium. It was unbelievable. I forget exactly how much selenium, but 3 Brazil nuts is incredibly high in selenium. So they're a great source of selenium, which is going to be a good immune booster. If you don't have Brazil nuts, any nut can do, right? Nuts are naturally high in vitamins and nutrients, in particular things like zinc. Pumpkin seeds were really high in zinc and would go really nicely with this as well. But I went and I got this thing of mixed nuts because it had Brazil nuts in it. I have to say, I don't love Brazil nuts on their own. It's not a nut that I like to pick up and eat, but they were delicious in this. And so I got a thing of mixed nuts so I could pick out the Brazil nuts for the recipe and then have the mixed nuts to add to other things. So this came with all kinds of different nuts in it. And I'm going to pull out my Brazil nuts, and I need about 1/4 cup. So I have a 1/4 cup measure here. Here it is. And I'm going to process them in the food processor. So I'm picking out the Brazil nuts, and I'm going to give myself, I'm making half the recipe. Give myself about 1/4 cup of Brazil nuts, put those into my food processor, and then it calls for oats. So I'm going to throw in my oats, and it's about 1/3 cup of oats.
Steel cut, I presume.
We're going to email you guys the recipes. So all the recipes will email to you after the session. So don't worry too much about writing things down. There's our oats, and then it called for a little parsley, fresh garlic. So here's my parsley. So it calls for about 1/2 tablespoon of parsley. You can do a little bit more, a little bit less. It's really, up to you. If you don't have parsley, leave it out. Don't worry about it. You want to add in a different herb, you could do that. I had some fresh parsley, so in it goes. And then it called for garlic. So I'm going to add a clove of garlic as well. And I just took that 1 clove off and I smashed it with the side of my knife to peel it. I'm going to cut the little tip off, and I'm just going to roughly chop it so that it will be sure to be chopped in my food processor. Done. So that's going in. A little salt and pepper. I don't think the recipe called for pepper, but I always add a little pepper. And then flaxseed. So the recipe calls for whole flaxseed. I have ground flaxseed here, so I'm using that instead. Totally fine. If you don't have everything, you can always substitute, leave out, make some changes, and things still turn out beautifully. So this is my food processor. I'm going to be loud for just like 30 seconds, and then we'll be done. And this is about done. That's it. So all I wanted to do was just process that until it's kind of like, looks like sand. And I'm gonna add that to my bowl. I made a batch earlier so that I can pull them out and show you what they look like finished. So I'm just adding this to the rest of the crumbs that I had from earlier. So that's ready to go. And then in another bowl, I have cornstarch. The recipe calls for arrowroot. You just really need a starch. And so I already had cornstarch. So there we go. I'm using cornstarch. And then a beaten egg. So this was an egg beaten up. And what we're going to do is we're going to dip our slices halfway in to the cornstarch and then brush off any extra, then cover that with egg, and then cover that with the crumb mixture, and it goes onto my baking pan. So doing this earlier, I found that it was easiest to use a spoon to kind of spoon it over the top rather than try to dip it in. So let me show you that. So I've got my little pieces of squash prepared, and I'm just going to take the cornstarch and rub it over kind of the 1/2 of the squash like that, and then tip off all the extra. Make sure I get my end as well, because that'll help everything to stick. And then I'm going to, I need a spoon. I need a spoon, not a fork. And this worked really well. All I did was kind of drizzle the egg over that portion of the squash that has the starch. And then I'm going to use a spoon here to coat that with the crumb mixture. And then that goes onto my baking tray. And I lined my baking tray with foil, and I sprayed it just lightly with nonstick spray. So there we go. I'm gonna put that onto my baking tray. I'll do a few more of those. So this is kind of the most time-consuming part, but I have to tell you, these are delicious. I made a batch earlier and it smells so good, I can't tell you. Super excited about this one. It just makes, squash can get a little bit old if you eat it just roasted over and over and over. So finding new ways to dress it up is always fun. And the original recipe for this, actually, Sabine had found this recipe, and it was in an article in Clean Eating all about immune boosting foods. And so the squash itself is loaded with vitamin C and other nutrients, right? And then we have the Brazil nuts, which are loaded with selenium, and we have the oats, which are loaded with iron. So we're getting all of these immune boosting nutrients in this one dish. But it actually was a recipe that also included fish. So salmon and other fish are really high in omega-3s and can be really beneficial as well in your diet. So if you were going to add them off at the same time, right? So I get my squash ready to go like this. I'm putting the squash in an oven at 375. And it's actually going to take the squash, about 40, 45 minutes to cook through. So I wouldn't put my fish on at the same time. I'd go ahead and start the squash like this, get those in the oven, then prep my fish. And the last 15 minutes, I'm going to pull my tray out. So I'll put my timer on 25 minutes, pull my tray out, turn these over. At that point, I can put the fish onto the tray, put it in the oven, let it cook. And during that last period, while the squash is finishing, my fish will cook through and they can both come out and be perfectly cooked. So let me do one more of these and I'll just show you. Putting those in the oven, I want to show you the finished product because it's really actually beautiful. This would be a really nice, to me, I mean, yes, it's nice any day of the week, but it's also a really pretty dish. So it'd be a great kind of, holiday side dish if you wanted to add in and incorporate something healthy into your holiday meals. I think this one is one of those that could be a holiday side dish as well. So here we go.
Jamie, if you were trying to maybe watch how many eggs you eat and that sort of thing, could you use something else, maybe brush
This isn't a lot of egg.
No.
I beat up an egg and I used a medium egg.
Okay.
And I had leftover egg after doing a whole squash earlier.
Okay.
So you're really not adding a lot of egg here. The only thing the egg is doing is adding a way to help this mixture kind of stick to the squash.
Mm-hmm.
If you really needed to avoid egg, though, you could put a little bit of oil and use oil, you know, just something kind of moist that's going to help stick. The arrowroot or the cornstarch is also working as a binder to help that stick. So you can see how pretty these look, right? So I would just do all of my little squash like that, line them up on my foil lined sprayed tray and put that into the oven. Now, I have kids at home, and my son, when I told him about this recipe, was not so excited about this Brazil nut mixture. So earlier I did most of the squash with the mixture, but I left some plain, just salt and pepper, a little oil, done. So the last part of this, let me move these things out of the way so I can show you the last part of this, is you put a little bit of oil, just a touch of oil. So I'm going to drizzle just a little bit of oil on my squash. And these ones that are going to go without the crumb topping, then I'm going to, season with just a little salt and pepper and Cajun seasoning. So I'm just putting just a tiny bit of oil, like a drop or two on each one, and on the edge of these that's not coated. And just rub that on. And that just helps it to stay moist, right? Adds a little bit of flavor as well. So I'm just rubbing that both sides, just a touch of oil. And then those will get some salt and pepper, and they'll be ready to go in the oven. I'm going to add a little bit of, this is what we like on our, I'm adding just a little bit of Cajun seasoning. Tony Sachery is my favorite Cajun seasoning, to be plain ones for my son to eat, because he likes it that way. So it's easy to personalize this, is my point, right? If everybody doesn't like the same things in your family, you can easily personalize your tray as it goes into the oven and everybody's happy. So that's going to go in the oven at 375. That cooks at 375 for about 25 minutes. And at that point, what I need to do is turn them over. So I pulled the tray out of the oven, and I used a spatula or tongs just to turn them over. It wasn't sticky at all. It was really easy to do. Turned them over, put them back in the oven for another 15 minutes, and they were done. So let me show you the final product. And I had some people in my family sneak over and eat some of these. So a few of them are missing off the tray. This was a whole acorn squash. It's really delicious and really pretty. You can see that the squash caramelizes. And my daughter's now asking me for more. So yeah, I can tell you that it's actually really delicious. And it comes up really easily, right? So this is a nice little side dish, right? I would serve that with a little quinoa, a little piece of roasted fish, roasted chicken for a full meal, or if you wanted something lighter, this would be delicious just alongside a little green salad. And that would be a nice light meal. So I'm gonna have a little plate for my daughter who would like to have some. Do you want the crusty one?
I'll have some of both.
And she's gonna have a little of both. And you can eat these, you know, warm. They're certainly delicious warm, but they're not bad cold either.
That's good. Thank you.
So voila, snack for kid number one. And that's it. Any questions? I know I went kind of fast.
Looks good.
Any questions from the crowd? So if I was going to do the same thing, I have a butternut squash here. I was going to show you guys. If I was going to do the same thing, I would just cut my butternut squash. Let me just show you. I'll cut it up anyway. So I'm going to cut, and with butternut squash, you know, there's usually a neck and then a bulb, and the bulb is where the seeds are. So when I'm buying butternut squash, I look for ones with the long neck, because that part's the easiest one, you know, the easiest part to work with. And then I just cut it in two parts. So I'm going to cut off my neck, and then you can see that the seeds start here. And I use both of them, but this is easier to work with. So all you need to do then is peel it And once it's peeled, you could cut this into slices and you could do the same process with those slices of butternut squash. So you could certainly use butternut squash even with this same recipe. And I just use a really good peeler. I happen to love this Cutco peeler. It works really well. And I'm just peeling that outer edge off. So this is why some people don't like butternut squash, because you have to deal with this part. You can buy butternut squash already peeled
And chopped.
But I saw some at the store yesterday. In fact, I was at Segona's, which is a produce market near where I live. And they had cut it into chunks, but they didn't peel it. I was like, oh, that's good, you know. Because I was thinking, oh, I'll buy one of these chunks and show you how you can even buy it chunked. So they had like a big piece, but it still had the peel on it. So it was not as helpful as I had thought it might be. But for, you know, soups and other things, you can certainly use those chopped pieces of butternut squash. That's super convenient. They even sell it frozen. So you can get frozen butternut squash chunked up like that as well. I know Whole Foods certainly has it because I've bought it there several times, and it makes a really, really great fast soup. So there's my peeled squash, and if I was going to use that in this recipe, I would then just cut it into slices. And because these are a little bit bigger, because it doesn't have the seeds in it, I would take this and I would cut it in half like that. And then I would dip half of that, so I would do half of it crusted. So those would do really nicely as well in the same method of cooking.
Oh, I'm getting a sinus headache.
You know,
well,
you
know what's fun to look at? I'm just going to see if I can pull this up. Can you guys see all the moisture?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
As I cut that? It's really kind of fun to see that happen. These are loaded with moisture, right? And once I cut it open, it allows that moisture to kind of come to the surface. It's even dripping off the side. I think that's so cool. All righty. Well, I think people have to run. We don't want to keep you guys too long. Thanks everyone for staying on. I'll let Thu sign off. Send us off. Yeah. Any questions? Gail, Stan, any questions up there? No? Well, it's been fun.
Thank you.
We're good. All of a sudden, my sinuses are hating me, but otherwise.
Thank you, Jamie, and thank you to our next presentation is scheduled for February 12th. It's a Friday, same time, 1 to 2. And that one we will be sharing whole grain baking. Thank you, Thu. We're going to be doing some whole grain baking. Jamie will be back, and so will Thu and myself. We'll be talking about swapping some interesting different kinds of grain flours, and it should be a really great session. So hopefully we will see you all then.
Great.
Would it be in Valentine's theme too? Are you trying to do something like that?
Yes, it's right in time for Valentine's Day.
2 days before Valentine's.
Well, thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Sabine.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll be sending out the recipes as well.
Super.
All right.